Matt LaFleur at his presser yesterday, really, really interesting to see or hear his thoughts and his comments on this. Listen, I understand there's a portion of the fan base that doesn't want to hear a damn thing that Matt LaFleur has to say for whatever reason. They think he's never telling the truth. He's always lying. And in some cases, there are situations where he's going to withhold information to make sure it doesn't put his team at a disadvantage. But the thing about Matt, if you know how to listen, if you know really what to listen for, he'll give you a lot of detail as to what's going on without tipping the game plan, without tipping maybe future information that could be beneficial for the Green Bay Packers. The portion of the fan base that thinks that he's just constantly lying, he's never going to take on, blah, blah, blah. I can't stand one of my biggest pet peeves, and we'll get into the video, is when people explain to you what a coach or a player meant. He may say one thing, well, okay, what he's really saying here is he just told us what he said. Like it just came from his mouth. And now we're getting into the psychology of what he actually meant was this and that. If you run it through the filter of every time a coach is speaking, he's speaking to his team. That's Brian Billick 101. That's Bill Walsh 101. As you guys don't know, Brian Billick, Super Bowl head coach for the Baltimore Ravens, actually worked for Bill Walsh and helped him write his huge book, the Football Bible, whatever the actual name is on it. And he said that was something Bill Walsh taught him, was every time you speak to the press, every time you speak to the media, you're speaking to your team. And coaches aren't great at it, right? And Matt LaFleur may not be the best at it. I'm not one to judge, but they'll get off track and you'll see them bring it back on track. Like, okay, what's the message need to be for the team? But nonetheless, it's about 3 minutes and 45 seconds of Matt LaFleur here talking. Early, I wanted to include the other stuff that set up the conversation because sometimes things can be taken out of context. We'll get to the meat and taters at about the 2-minute mark of this, but let's just go ahead and play this and react in real time. Here we go.
Say anything until you watch the tape. Apparently, JJ addressed the team after the game last night and said that he didn't feel like some guys left it all out on the field. Did you see that when you watched the tape? Is that the kind of accountability you want your guys demanding from each other? How do you kind of?
Yeah, I think we're all accountable to one another. Coaches to players, players to coaches, players to players, and we're all in it together. And there was definitely some moments last night where it wasn't up to the standard, and that hasn't been the case. I mean, I feel like when you look at the totality of the season, our defense has played with a certain style of play that you can kind of hang your hat on. And then there were certainly moments where it did not meet the standard.
How do you make sure that serves as a wake-up call as opposed to a symptom of further problems that could present themselves?
Well, I think you have to first, it starts with acknowledging what happened. And our guys did that. We did that today. That's why I thought it was so important to have everybody back in today.
If you're wondering there, they had everybody back in the building to watch the tape, right? To get everything. All right, let's lay it all out on the table. And he spent a lot of time with the defensive staff, with the defensive players watching that tape, it sounds like.
To kind of like, hey, the tape is the tape. There is no hiding from the tape.
I wish somebody would play that little clip right there for the portion of the fan base that always refers to the tape guys. You guys know what I'm talking about. They'll lay out spreadsheet after spreadsheet, analytic after analytic, and go, here's what's actually happening. And then someone who watches the tape will go, well, the tape actually shows this. All the tape guys. I love what Matt said there. You seen him grin too. There ain't no hiding from the tape, boys. When you put the tape on and you watch what actually happened, that's why I haven't been as critical of Rashawn Gary the last 3 years, because when you watch the tape, you're going, but if you take a second and watch the end zone cam of his pass rush, he's not pinning his ears back every snap. That tight end that blocked him, as those two knuckleheads over at the 4-letter network said over and over, that tight end blocked him. It was a mush. You could tell it was a mush run. He wasn't even going after the quarterback. Like, again, the tape never lies, and there's no hiding from the tape either. If you put on the tape and people hear that and they go, is he talking effort? I don't think he's talking effort here. And we'll get into what he's talking in a second. I think he's talking about, why the hell are you lining up in the two-tech when you were supposed to be playing shade? Tape don't lie, right? Again, the analytics won't show that. The spreadsheet's not going to show that's what happened with the run defense. The spreadsheet will just show, oh, man, we failed miserably, right? Let's continue.
So what we put out there, it is what it is, and you better acknowledge it, own it, accept it, and learn from it.
So, Matt, does the way that you guys played on defense yesterday impact how you want to play Sunday and going into the playoffs feeling like you've maybe turned that around, or does that not factor in Sunday?
I think I would say, Rob, everything factors in. So again, we'll make the decision that we feel is best moving forward, regardless of anything, whether you rest certain individuals. I mean, you're kind of limited, especially our situation right now with the number of injuries that occurred.
Oh, boy, I know the Matt LaFleur haters don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear that. But you're completely limited on what you can do, both really offensively and defensively. Running the ball, he caught a lot of heat because why did Josh Jacobs just get that many carries? He said in this presser, and I don't have it in this clip, and I know we're talking defense, so I probably shouldn't even mention it, but just real quick, he mentioned, we looked up at what they were doing defensively, and we knew they were going to be able to take our run game away, essentially is what he was saying, and that's why we shifted gears into, hey, let's just throw the ball. And that's why Malik Willis had so much success through the air. Now, the casual fan that wants to say Malik Willis is a better quarterback than Jordan Love sees that, go, well, he's better than Jordan Love. It really opens up the offense when Malik Willis is there. No, they stopped the run. They keyed in on stopping the run, and that's what opened up the pass, right? Again, you could take one thing away, but you can't take everything away. So why does the offense not look the same when Jordan Love's out there? Because in those situations, they know Jordan Love can cut them apart through the air. So they're either playing to stop the pass. All right, let's let them establish a run. We don't think they'll stick with the run. Maybe that'll be the case as well. And that's why you see us press into the run a little bit more, and maybe it's not as successful in certain situations. There's just always a counter to every point. That makes sense.
Guys are going to have to play ball. And so they better approach it as in such a way that they're getting their mind ready to go play ball.
You mentioned alignment issues and whatnot, run defense wise. This is easy for me to say it from the comfort of the media auditorium when I don't know what the hell's going on. But how does that happen?
I'm glad you admit that, though.
Well, yeah.
Where I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm glad you admitted that. And you see the grin. He took a little shot there, right? But here we go.
Because I don't know. But how does that happen in week 17?
Yeah, that's what was so baffling, I would say, is, just sitting in there with the defensive staff today and just
here we go. This is where we're getting into it. He said this was baffling, right? And again, I was taken back too. And then when I go watch the end zone cam, I'm going, why do we call our fronts that way knowing they're running the ball? Why are we calling our fronts with a wider split up front in certain situations? It just didn't make sense. It's like you want to have him corral. You want him to make that first cut, him being Derrick Henry, make that first cut as quick as possible, right? And get bodies on him. So when he does fall forward, like he's going to fall forward 90% of the time, that it's a 3-yard gain instead of a 7-yard gain. Or Lord forbid him get all the momentum, make a cut, and get a clear lane, right? So I was a little bit hard in my own mind. I didn't tweet anything. I try not to tweet emotional stuff if you guys have caught on. And I was like, why? In my mind, I'm going, why did Hafley call that front? Why did he call that 2-eye? Why did he call a 3 right there? We know they're going to try to run the ball. Listen.
That hasn't been a trend. That hasn't been something that has really happened throughout the course of the season. For it to show up in that game was really bothersome.
So now you're going, what's bothersome? The play calling? Because in my mind, that's what I'm running it through is going, yeah, it does bother me that you had a little bit wider split there. What are we doing? Why are we calling that front? Listen.
Are you talking about pre-snap alignment? Are you talking about filling gaps after the ball is?
All of the above. Guys, not when we're calling a line stunt, you got some guys moving the right way, some guys going the wrong way. You got
calling a line stunt, whether it's a TT torch or an ET stunt or a TE stunt, and you got guys running in the opposite direction. Guys, all it takes is one man up front running in the opposite direction on a stunt, whether it's a run stunt or you're trying to get to the quarterback on a pass stunt, one guy runs the opposite direction and you've got a huge hole to run through, right? Mental mistake. And again, I catch a lot of heat for this in the off season, and it's okay. It comes with the territory. I got it. And we all have the right to disagree, right? But when I say, damn, here we go into another season with the youngest roster in the league again, that's why those mistakes happen. That's the upside is you've got a young, less beat up supposedly, right? Less beat up roster with the as Goody says, it's a young man's sport, and it is, right? But when you go in with that young roster, there's some perks to it, yes, and it's nice looking up and going, we made the playoffs again with the youngest roster. But then the mental mistakes start to pile up, guys, that's the youth on the roster. And the argument typically gets steered towards, yeah, but it's a young roster, but they've got a lot of experience. It doesn't matter how much experience they've got if they're still the youngest roster. It means the most experienced person on the team is still less experienced than the middle of the road guy that's on most of the other rosters. And again, it's not all doom and gloom, but you got to take the good with the bad. If you're excited about having the youngest roster, then you got to take that. You got to take that poison pill that's showing that, hey, that's the downside to it. Players are going to make mistakes.
When you call certain fronts, if we expect a guy to line up over the center and be a zero technique, he's got to be a zero technique. He can't be a two technique. Or
all right, let's pause it there. Again, I'm going to throw this up on the screen. When he's talking zero tech, notice the zero, right? That's playing nose straight up on the center. Okay, when we call for a guy to play a zero technique, he's got to play a zero technique. He can't play a two. Notice where the two's at. So if he's one gap completely over, out of place pre-snap, right, then what's that do for the stack backers behind him? You see what I'm saying? That's a huge hole that they've got to fill. And then he may be trying to sugar the offense a little bit, like I'm going to line up into two, but I'll make sure I still get to my spot over to the zero. Well, that throws the backer off. If he sees pre-snap, oh, crap, he's not in the right place. Well, now I got to cheat to the left, and then all of a sudden he crosses my face completely, goes to the zero tech, and now I'm trying to compensate for him by cheating left a half a gap. Now you're both a half a gap out of place, and that's how you get all that space. And again, me being the ignorant person I am, I'm watching the tape going, why did Hafley call that front? Why did he call a two tech right there? He didn't. Guy's playing out of place. So, again, youth on the roster.
Or, a shade, like you have to be, it's all intertwined. Everybody plays off one another.
Like the stack backer playing off a zero as opposed to a two when you're expecting a zero, and the safeties playing off the stack backer, expecting the stack backer to be one half a gap to the right as opposed to a half a step to the left, because it's just a trickle down effect. Like you said, stack backer is playing off the front. The front, they're setting the tone for the run defense and all the run fits, right? So when you get that guy lined up pre-snap and you get a team like Baltimore and they may be going hurry up a little bit, right? Not necessarily a muddle huddle or a turbo or anything like that, but just hey, they break the huddle and go, hey guys, let's go quick here. And this guy's lined up in the two. Well, the stack backer don't have time to communicate. Have you ever seen our stack backers, Quay and those guys will run up and they'll smack the defensive line on the rear end and go, hey, give me a gap over, get over a gap, you're out of place, right? They're communicating with the defensive front. Here's where you need to be. Well, if they go just a touch quick on offense, you don't have the time to go up there and smack that booty, right? That's going to be a sound clip. Go up there and smack him on the rear end and go, hey, man, you're a half a gap out or you're a full gap out, right? Hey, I need you in a shade here, right? I need you in a shade, not a two. Well, if you don't have time to do that, you're doomed from the start. So that's what was baffling, as Matt LaFleur said, and why he sat down in the meeting room. And I guarantee you, Hafley went, hell, you talked to him. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know why they did that, right? Again, it's mistakes of a youthful roster.
And so, like, when you don't do that, it just puts everybody at risk. And that's exactly what happened in the game. And you got to give Baltimore credit. I mean, they played hard. They played more physical than us, and they moved us. They moved us off the line of scrimmage. They controlled that game. I don't recall seeing a 300-yard rushing performance. I mean, that's tough. That doesn't happen very often in the National Football League. They ran the ball, 55 times or whatever it was. So it wasn't up to the standard.
All right. So there you go. That was Matt LaFleur talking about the defense and everything that kind of ensued there, right? So, I love what number one Packer fan says here in the chat. People don't get it's a domino effect. If guys are not doing their 1/11th, all 11 can fail. And this goes back, since we're talking defense for a second, and we need to move on here. I don't know how long my voice will last. You guys will probably hear it, but we got up and got down with the sickness here. We're about 3 days into this now, and it seems to be getting worse. But like when people were saying, well, let Jair follow the number one receiver, you can't do that. And there was times where Jair would go, man, to hell with my assignment. I'm just going to play the defense I want to play here. I know I'm supposed to be playing quarter match here, and that safety's expecting me to help over the top if the number one receiver on this side goes underneath. But you know what? If he goes underneath, I'm gonna jump that route. Well, you had a little bit of that with Keyshawn Nixon couple weeks ago, right? That's a perfect example of what number one Packer fans saying here. If you do not play your assignment on defense, it busts everything apart. So to me, this isn't to harp on this situation, guys. It's good news because now what Matt said there was true as well. You got bullied, you got pushed off the ball. That's not good news. But to me, it's good news knowing, hey guys, we hurt ourselves way more than we helped ourselves. You notice how we began stopping their running game a little bit there about halfway point of the game? It's because guys were lining up in the right gap. I'm watching the tape thinking we made an adjustment. Good adjustment, Half. There was no adjustment. Hafley's going, what the hell are these guys doing? They're not even playing their gap. They're not even pre-snap aligning, much less keeping gap integrity. So I think that has a lot to do with what happened. And just to wrap this little segment up here, our buddy Rob Westerman over at GBP Daily tweeted out, Matt LaFleur has a 1.4% chance to get fired this season per Poly Market. If you're active on social media, you'd think it's a lot higher than that with a laughing emoji. He's not going anywhere. And again, we've talked about this. I've done poll questions and all this. Everybody screams fire him, fire him, fire him. Then when you throw the poll question up, it's funny. It's a large majority, over 70% say no, he shouldn't be fired. And then they'll comment and go, I don't want him fired, but there needs to be changes. Okay, got it, head honcho. So again, Poly Market, 1.4% chance that Matt LaFleur is fired this year. So no surprise there. And I appreciate Rob. Me and Rob, Rob's way, way, way more intelligent than me, but our minds kind of fire in a similar direction. I think he does it too. We go to, is that really accurate? How can we find some hard data on that? So I'm glad he tweeted that out. But if you guys are watching this video back later, I want to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what you think about Matt LaFleur's explanation of the run defense. Do you think it's accurate? To me, it looks like it lines up with everything. It gave me a lot of answers as to what the tape was showing there. We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think. And also, isn't it crazy that Jeff Hafley, in my opinion, I don't think Jeff Hafley should get fired. All right. What are we talking about here? Right. That sounds silly, but it is amazing how when the defense stalls and they stutter and they struggle, immediately people shift gears to, well, it's Rashawn Gary's fault. Well, it's Matt LaFleur's fault. You never hear it mentioned that it might be Jeff Hafley's fault. And I don't think it is Haf's fault. It's just crazy that that's never mentioned in the equation. I want to hit a couple more here real quick before we wrap this up. Jason Wise said, I saw a crazy stat comparing Hafley's 2025 defense versus Joe Barry's last year at Green Bay, and it was similar. People are going, what are you talking about? Yeah. When we broke this down going into the offseason, we said, don't be surprised if this defense takes a step back. And I think they were prepared for that. And obviously they go out and get Micah Parsons, and that helps mask it a lot. But now the defense has taken a step back. This has nothing to do without Micah Parsons. It's more about teams have all that tape now on what Hafley did in year one. So now it's all about making the adjustment. The little glimmer of hope that I have is that the adjustment you're going to make going into the playoffs might catch some of these teams a little off guard, because now they kind of have a beat on your defense, and most of it is the pre-snap alignment stuff we talked about. However, now we make an adjustment and it might catch the first round of the playoffs. Those teams, whether it's Chicago or Philadelphia, we might catch them off guard a little bit and give us a little bit of an advantage where you could jump up to an early lead, potentially still a playoff win here, right? Even with all the injuries. Jason Moss said, except Barry's defense had a lot more takeaways. Do you know why he had a lot more takeaways? Because again, you're playing a lot of too high shell. Those safeties have got their eyes on the quarterback, eyes on the ball, as opposed to buzzing down in the box, which I like both. I think and that's the thing. This isn't a knock against the Fangio style defense, which Philadelphia runs. It's not a knock against Jeff Hafley and wanting to play that spur safety look the majority of the time. It's not a knock on either. They both have their pros and cons, right? And when you play with a too high shell look pre-snap, that same look, those guys have got eyes on the ball and they can break on the ball a little bit easier, as opposed to having to buzz the box last second to get in the run fit, right? That Hafley loves the sugar. I think both have their place, but they both have a negative as well. So DJ Schultz in the chat, Clayton, do you think we take the loss against the Vikings and rest all the starters? I personally do, DJ. I do. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to rest all the starters, but anyone who's a little banged up, you're going to play this really, really cautionary. And I think there is a chance you do lose to the Vikings. And it's not the end of the world. You got the 7 seeds locked in. The ultimate priority right here is to have everyone healthy and then try to create some momentum going in. You can't do both in the situation you're in. We just put 2 more players on IR, right? Defensive tackle Jordan Riley and cornerback Kamal Haddon are both out for the year. They're going on the IR. So there's only so much you can do, man. There's only so much you can do, you know? So I personally think if I were a betting man, and you guys know I am, but I don't bet on Packers games. If I was on the outside looking in, knowing all the scenario here, I would look really, really hard into, okay, what's the point spread? If the Packers are somehow underdogs going into Minnesota, I don't know if they will be or not. It depends on what injury information is released on the surface. If the Vikings are playing all their starters that are healthy and the Packers are down half their team, probably a good chance that the Vikings come out with a win here. And there will be fans calling for Matt LaFleur's job again because he's now lost 4 in a row or whatever it is. And it's silly. So again, the goal is to win that Lombardi, right? And that gives you the best chance of doing it. Packers are plus 6.5 right now, DJ says. So the Packers are 6.5-point underdogs right now. So that makes sense. Kind of feel good about that 6.5, to be honest with you. But we'll talk about that as we get into that discussion. But again, if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments what you think. Hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. If you don't have anything to add to the conversation in the comments, just hit us with a Go Pack Go. We greatly appreciate that.